Okay, so the last piece of putting together your paper is going to be putting it into proper MLA format. And I want to just remind you when I score your paper, I'm going to be using this rubric to do it. And the rubric starts with the introduction, looks at the conclusion, and then has criteria for the body paragraphs: claims, literary devices, language analysis, cultural context, all the things we've been talking about. But one thing we really haven't talked about is that last criteria there: style and mechanics. Now, by grammar and style, I really just mean, is the paper clear? I'm not gonna, it's not a comp course, so I'm not primarily evaluating your style. But if the paper has so many grammar errors it's hard to understand, or if your language is unclear, I will have to penalize for that. And of course, I'll reward particularly good writing as well. But the bigger thing here is to make sure we learn how to correctly use MLA formatting of the text itself, of the citations, of the readings, and of the work cited. And so what we're going to do is walk quickly through Brian's sample essay and show you those different elements of MLA formatting. So students often ask me, what's the deal with MLA formatting? And really the whole idea with having a format like MLA is to make every paper look exactly the same. And you might say, that's a terrible example of social conformity in American culture. And I guess it is, except for this. If every paper looks the same, exactly the same, then that means every paper is evaluated purely on the quality of its ideas and thinking. And I actually like that idea. So in order to make papers look the same, we have to have a sort of standardized set of rules that we all follow exactly. So if you look here at Brian's paper, this is a correctly formatted MLA paper. I framed it so you can't fully see the margins because I wanted you to be able to see some things as large as possible. But this paper has 1-inch margins all around on all pages. So all the pages have simple 1-inch margins. You'll notice on the top, we've got his last name and page number. And that you create by finding the header, open header function in Google Docs, and you type in your last name and you click the pagination button, and the paper will be automatically page numbered for you. Over here, these are called the headings. So this is the header. It's got last name, page number. These are the headings: writer's name, professor's name, course number, and date. Note how the date is formatted. This is the international date formatting. Day, month, year, no commas. Yours should look exactly like this. So this is another reason to have the sample essay printed out in front of you. As you go through your paper one last time, proofreading and editing, you want to make sure yours looks exactly like this. If yours has commas in the date or has the date in a different order, it doesn't look exactly like this. Then you have the title of your paper, and I think the simple title for these papers would just be your tension, right? Put out your tension. That's a good simple title for your paper. But if you want to get fancy, you go for it. Have fun with your title. But notice your title is in the same size and font as everything else. No bold, no italics, no fancy showboating. Just a plain generic title, space, and the body paragraph. Notice that the body paragraph is indented. Indented body paragraphs. Or I'm sorry, in this case, the intro. The intro is indented. Body paragraphs will also be indented. So notice when we go on to the second page and we get our first body paragraph, it's indented. Notice too that every page has the header, last name, page number. There's no P in there. There's no period. There's no comma after the last name. Yours needs to look exactly like this. Okay, so let's take a look at in-text citations. Where do we put those? Well, as you know, I like to see short quotes worked into sentences that explain them. This is an example of a shorter quote, but to me actually a little longer than I like, in a sentence that simply introduces the quote. The interpretation comes after. But what I want you to pay attention to is the page citation. Because you've already mentioned the author in the paragraph, That's going to be in your topic sentence. Your page citations can just be page numbers because the reader knows it's Faulkner, and to find Faulkner, they can go to the Works Cited list, look under F for Faulkner, and find the exact text. But this, all you have to do is page number. Notice there's no P. Notice there's no comma or period in the citation. This is called a parenthetical citation. It is simply a page number. But really importantly, you'll notice that the citation comes after the quotes, but before the period. After the quote, before the period. That's because the citation is part of the sentence, but not part of the quote. So if you put a period here, and the citation is outside the sentence, that doesn't make sense. If you put the citation inside the quotes, that doesn't make sense either because the citation isn't part of the quote. So the logical and correct way to do it is citation outside the quote, inside the punctuation. It's part of the sentence, but the citation is not part of the quote. Very important. You do this exactly correctly throughout your paper. And you can see other examples throughout. This is, I think, a better example of a sentence that does a nice job integrating a brief quote into its analysis. This is a sentence where he's talking about a character from As I Lay Dying. And again, short quotes worked into the sentence. Couple words here, into a sentence that uses the literary terminology and interprets. Again, the citation is outside the quote, inside the final punctuation. Another thing that's important to note about MLA formatting is that we italicize titles. We italicize text titles of novels and plays and book-length works. That means we put quotes around them. But when we're quoting a poem or a short story, we use quotations. So this is A Good Man's Hard to Find, a Flannery O'Connor short story. We only use quotation marks. So Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, we would be in italics. Daisy Miller, novella, very long short story, italics, but a short story like The Passing of Grandison would be in quotation marks. Okay, so that's how we're going to do our in-text page citations and how we're going to in-text cite our sources. Italics for books and plays, quotation marks for poems and short stories. So let's go all the way to the end and look at the works cited list. This is really straightforward. You can literally just exactly copy this format. If your particular text you don't think fits in with this, you're welcome to use the library MLA page that you can find a link to on the course homepage. That might prove useful, but really this is a good list that gives you a good sense of how you want to do things. Now, you'll notice that Brian has some mistakes in here. Sonny's Blues is a story. He left off the S and he put it in italics. Actually, Sonny's Blues, because of the story, should be in quotation marks. But the rest is right. Last and first name of the author. If it's of a particular edition, you put that there. If there's editors, you want to identify the editors, the place, location of publication, city, and then in this case, it's Indiana University Press and the year. That, by the way, should be a comma there, not a period. All right. For the novel, same kind of structure. If you're unclear, notice how they all have print at the end of them. If you're unclear about a citation, you can always email, text, or call me, or you can always go to the course homepage where there's a link to the library. And the library, our library MLA site. So our library has a really good MLA page. It's right here. There's a link to it. Click on that. And it has some really good stuff that lays everything out. There's a sample paper if you need another review. But my favorite part is this little MLA style examples handout. It's all right there. And every kind of example you could imagine. A book with an editor, a chapter in a book, a section in a book. There's every possibility you can imagine is here. And the sheet provides examples of everything. So again, this is the kind of video you're probably going to watch over and over again to review things. I recommend that you watch this video one more time before you turn your paper in and go section by section and make sure that you have everything right. Okay, hope this is helpful. Don't hesitate to follow up with an email, text, or phone call, and I will see you in Blackboard.